Hi, I'm Dr. Vicki Elias. I've been here since 2011. Before that, I was at Oklahoma State University. I went back to school and finished my education when I was in my 50s, so if you're a non-trad student, welcome to the club. Dr. Simpson asked me to come talk about the sociological imagination, and I think Mill's got it right. It's when we can look at both the micro and the macro, when we can look at what's going on in an individual's life and at what's going on in larger society and how those two are connected. And that gets really exciting when you start seeing those links and those images. The first time that I can remember experiencing this sociological imagination was when I was in second grade. I was a bookworm. It was a brand new building, and so we were getting a brand new library. And the first day the library books got there was this huge set of books that all the boys could check out. But there were only 3 books that all the girls had to share, because this was a set of books about career opportunities. So when the teacher was out of the room, I got up and stole the book that said, "When you grow up, you'll be a fireman." I never read it, never wanted to be a fireman, but it really made me angry that someone would tell me what I could be and that someone would tell me that I couldn't even read the book. So at 7, that was my first glimpse of this, and I've never turned back. And spending my days trying to trace this is one of the greatest luxuries and adventures of life.
All right. So my name is Dr. Daniel Delgado. I am in my my second year at Texas A&M University San Antonio. I am a sociology professor. I came from another university on the East Coast, but I'm from Texas. And actually my research is focused on studying Latinos and racial identities and racism and white supremacy in San Antonio and other urban spaces. I also do some research on Latino experiences in higher ed and Latino experiences with the criminal justice system. My current research, though, is focusing on the, as I mentioned before, the urban component of racism. And so your professor, Dr. Simpson, had asked me to talk about what the importance of the sociological imagination for me. And I think that for me it's a complex idea that allows sociology to be a social discipline in ways that other disciplines can't. So what I mean by that is that I think the sociological imagination for me allows you to understand another person's experience. And I think that aspect of understanding, right? It's the classic statement that we use, and I don't know if Dr. Simpson has said this, he probably has. We all say it, which is that it provides us the opportunity to step into someone else's shoes. And so for me, it really was something that I learned for the first time in my social problems class. And I was able to see and understand the experiences of other humans. And I think what that did is that made sociology more than just something I'm just learning in a book, but made it a actual way of acting in the world. And so for me, sociology becomes not just this academic discipline with all these interesting ideas and statistics and, analyses of, social media or whatever, but it also becomes a way of, I may have mentioned this, I can't remember, but for me it becomes a way of kind of acting in the world and being in the world, right? So that I am now understanding how other humans are experiencing the world, and I then can act accordingly. And so I think the sociological imagination really gives me that a power, I guess. I do kind of think of it as like a superpower a little bit. So it is a little bit of a superpower that helps me kind of decode lots of things. And in intro, you start to realize that sociology really does become, the sociological imagination in particular, does become something of a superpower where you start to be able to decode the world. So, yeah, that's what it means for me.
Hi, I am Dr. Shannon Shen. I am the newest addition to the sociology program here. I study health, and I study family, and I study marriage. So I like to look at how the conditions that you're experiencing in your health are affecting your marital quality, how that goes vice versa. And then I also bring in components of sexuality, so I look at how your health and your marital quality affect sexual behaviors, and all this is happening among older adults, so that's 57 and older. For me, the sociological imagination is a way that we can understand what's happening around us in our personal environment to things that are happening at the broader social level. So one of the first memories I have, and I didn't know that it was a sociological imagination that I was really experiencing, was when I was in China. I saw how women were treated differently than men there, and that it wasn't just the way that they were treated, but it was the way that they then behaved because they knew that they had a different status. And so that wasn't something that I was used to because that's not necessarily how I behaved in America. So that was the first time where I was like, wow, what is happening here? What are the differences between men and women? And it was from that experience that I then went on to want to study sociology as a graduate student.
So hello everybody, my name is Dr. Jennifer Correa. I am an associate professor here at Texas A&M San Antonio. My research interests are in Latino-Latina studies, the U.S.-Mexico border, and qualitative methods. So we are the people that like to talk to other people. With regard to kind of thinking about the sociological imagination and how it is something that has impacted me as not only as a person but as a scholar, and especially when I'm trying to teach it to my students, is my background was originally first in criminology, and as I was making that shift from criminology into sociology, the way that we can think about the sociological imagination is, for example, if we take a person who engages in crime, right? Thinking about the sociological imagination would be trying to understand the context. So it's not just simply looking at a person and focusing in on the crime, but rather ask larger questions. For example, what sorts of structures perhaps pushed this individual into crime. And so that kind of takes on a whole different modality and perspective. And that's really kind of essentially the core of the sociological imagination. It's shifting from the individual to the larger social structures, what we call macro sociology. So moving from the micro, the individual, to the macro. Looking at macro structures such as family, gender, race, class. When you think about class, we tend to think about it in individual terms. But when you start to think about it from a more broader macro level, you start to think about working class, middle class, upper class. These are sort of a more broader perspective. So that's sort of the way that I go about trying to teach this to my students, trying to get them to understand it. And really, I think even for myself as a person, anything that I look at, I try to look at the context, because the context is what ultimately helps us understand these micro level scenarios. So I hope that is a helpful explanation of the sociological imagination. Thank you.